Welcome to another exciting journey into the world of rare and historic United States coins. Sparkles today, we're taking a closer look at some classic Lincoln wheat cents, featuring the famous Abraham Lincoln design, the iconic wheat reverse, and the historic inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," "EPLURIBUSUNUM," and 1 cent. These old American coins are more than just pocket change. They are pieces of history that have survived for generations. In this collection, we explore 1942, 1946, and 1956 Lincoln wheat cents, including Philadelphia issues with no mint mark. Each coin has its own story, unique condition, historical background, and collector interest. From the World War II era to the post-war years, these wheat cents give us a fascinating glimpse into American history and classic coin collecting. So stay with us as we examine these beautiful old coins, discover their important features, learn what makes them collectible, and see why Lincoln wheat cents continue to attract collectors around the world. Let's begin this exciting coin journey. The 1956 United States Lincoln wheat cent is a classic mid-20th century American 1-cent coin that is widely collected because it belongs to the famous Lincoln wheat cent series, a coinage type that was produced from 1909 through 1958. The coin you have described is dated 1956 and has no mint mark, which identifies it as a Philadelphia Mint issue. On United States coins of this period, the absence of a mint mark generally indicates production at the Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark on its circulating cents. The obverse of the coin features the well-known portrait of President Abraham Lincoln facing right, designed by Victor David Brenner. Above Lincoln's portrait is the inscription "In God We Trust," while "Liberty" appears to the left of the portrait and the date, 1956, appears to the right. Because your coin is described as circulated, it would normally show evidence of handling such as surface wear, softened details, small scratches, discoloration, and possibly darker areas caused by oxidation and environmental exposure. These characteristics are normal for an older copper-based coin and can help confirm that the piece has spent time in circulation. The reverse of the 1956 Lincoln wheat cent is one of the main reasons collectors find these coins attractive. Instead of the Lincoln Memorial design used on later cents, the 1956 cent carries the original wheat ears reverse designed by Victor David Brenner. 2 wheat stalks frame the central inscriptions, creating the name wheat penny or wheat cent, a nickname commonly used by collectors. At the top of the reverse is United States of America, and in the center is the denomination 1 cent. The Latin phrase EPLURIBUSUNUM appears above the denomination. The phrase means "out of many, one," and has been part of United States coinage for generations. The combination of the wheat ears, the large lettering, and the historic Lincoln portrait gives the 1956 cent a distinctive appearance that separates it from modern Lincoln cents. On a circulated example, the wheat lines may be less sharp than on an uncirculated coin, and the central lettering may show varying amounts of wear depending on how heavily the coin was used. A 1956 Philadelphia Lincoln wheat cent is a historically interesting coin because it was produced during a period when the United States was still using the traditional bronze composition for its 1-cent pieces. The standard Lincoln cent of this era was made primarily from copper with a small amount of tin and zinc, giving the coin its familiar reddish-brown or brown appearance when preserved naturally. Freshly struck copper cents could have a bright reddish color, but exposure to air, moisture, handling, soil, and other environmental conditions can gradually change the surface. Collectors often describe copper wheat cents using color designations such as red, red-brown, or brown when grading uncirculated examples. Circulated coins are more commonly seen in brown or mixed brown coloration, although individual pieces can vary considerably. A dark or brown appearance does not automatically mean a coin is damaged or worthless. Natural tunning and circulation are common characteristics of old copper cents. The year 1956 is particularly interesting because it comes near the end of the Lincoln wheat cent era. The wheat reverse continued through 1958, after which the design was replaced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This means that the 1956 cent belongs to the final few years of a major American coin design tradition. Lincoln cents had already been circulating for nearly half a century by this time, and millions of Americans would have encountered them in everyday commerce. The coin therefore represents both the history of Lincoln coinage and the monetary culture of post-war America. A collector holding a 1956 wheat cent is holding an object that circulated during a period of enormous social, technological, and economic change in the United States. The absence of a mint mark on your 1956 cent is an important identifying feature. During this era, coins produced at Philadelphia were normally struck without a mint letter, while coins from Denver carried a D mint mark. San Francisco cents of the period could carry an S mint mark. Therefore, a 1956 cent without a mint mark is generally identified as a Philadelphia issue. The mint mark, when present on Lincoln wheat cents of this period, is located on the obverse below the date and to the right of Lincoln's portrait. On a no-mint mark 1956 coin, that area simply does not have a letter. Collectors should distinguish an intentional lack of a mint mark from a possible damaged or altered mint mark area. However, with a normal 1956 Philadelphia cent, no mint mark is exactly what should be expected. The condition of a 1956 Lincoln wheat cent is one of the most important factors when determining collector interest and value. Since your coin is described as circulated, the amount and location of wear should be examined carefully. On the obverse, the highest areas of Lincoln's hair, cheek, jawline, and coat can show wear first. The lettering and date should still be inspected for clarity. On the reverse, the wheat ears and the central lettering provide useful evidence of the coin's condition. A heavily circulated piece may have flattened wheat lines and noticeable surface marks, while a lightly circulated example may retain much more detail. Collectors also pay close attention to scratches, rim damage, corrosion, stains, cleaning, and unusual color. A coin that looks very shiny because it has been aggressively cleaned may actually be less desirable than a naturally toned coin with an original surface. When evaluating a circulated 1956 wheat cent, it is useful to inspect both sides under good lighting and, ideally, with magnification. Look first at the date to make sure all 4 digits are clearly visible. Then examine the mint mark area beneath the date to confirm that there is genuinely no mint mark. On the reverse, inspect the wheat stalks and the lettering around 1 cent and United States of America. Natural wear usually produces a gradual softening of the design, while damage can produce sharper scratches, pits, gouges, or unnatural discoloration. The edges should also be checked for bending, dents, cuts, or other problems. Although these details may seem minor, professional coin graders consider the overall condition and originality of a coin when assigning a grade. The 1956 Lincoln wheat cent is not normally considered a rare date in the same way that some of the famous key date wheat cents are, and a standard circulated Philadelphia example is generally a common collectible coin. Nevertheless, common does not mean uninteresting. The coin remains desirable because it is part of the classic wheat cent series and is affordable enough for beginning collectors while still providing opportunities for experienced collectors to study condition, color, varieties, and die characteristics. Collectors often build complete wheat cent date and mint mark sets, and a 1956 no mint mark cent can serve as one of the Philadelphia entries in such a collection. Its value depends heavily on condition, originality, collector demand, and whether any recognized variety or error is present. One of the most important things to understand about old U.S. cents is the difference between face value and collector value. The legal denomination of this coin is 1 cent, but an old wheat cent can be worth more than 1 cent to collectors depending on its condition and other characteristics. A circulated 1956 Philadelphia cent that is heavily worn may have only a modest collector premium, while a sharply preserved example can attract greater interest. Coins with exceptionally attractive original color, strong details, or scarce die varieties can command premiums. However, claims that every old wheat penny is automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars are misleading. Most ordinary circulated examples are not extremely valuable, and genuine high-value pieces usually have a specific reason for their premium. Variety collecting is another area that can make a 1956 wheat cent more interesting. Collectors sometimes examine coins for doubled dies, repunched features, die cracks, off-center strikes, clip planchets, broad strikes, and other minting anomalies. Such features should not be confused with ordinary postmint damage. For example, a scratch caused by machinery or handling after the coin left the mint is not considered a valuable mint error simply because it looks unusual. Genuine errors generally originate during the manufacturing process and display characteristics consistent with known striking or planchet problems. If a 1956 cent appears to have doubling or another unusual feature, it is best to compare it with reliable references or seek an expert examination before assuming it is rare. The words "In God We Trust" on the obverse are especially recognizable to collectors because they have long appeared on United States coinage. Liberty reflects one of the central themes of American national identity, while Lincoln's portrait connects the coin to one of the most historically significant presidents in U.S. history. Together, the inscriptions and portrait communicate ideas of national identity, liberty, faith, and remembrance. The reverse complements these ideas with E+Pluribus Unum, a traditional motto representing unity among the states. Although the coin is small and ordinary in monetary denomination, its design contains several important symbols of American history. The Lincoln Wheat Cent series itself has a remarkable collecting history. The design was introduced in 1909, replacing the Indian head cent and becoming the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. Abraham Lincoln was chosen for the cent because 1909 marked the centennial of his birth. The coin quickly became one of the most recognizable pieces of American currency. For decades, it was an everyday coin, passing through countless hands: stores, banks, vending machines, pockets, drawers, and cash registers. By the time the 1956 issue was struck, the design had already become deeply familiar to the American public. Today, its historical status has transformed it from ordinary pocket change into a collectible piece of American numismatic history. There is also a practical reason collectors like the 1956 wheat cent. It can be studied without requiring a large investment. A beginning collector can learn about mint marks, grading, tunning, strike quality, varieties, and preservation by examining inexpensive circulated examples. The 1956 no mint mark cent is especially useful for learning because its Philadelphia origin is straightforward to identify. It can also be compared with Denver and San Francisco examples from nearby years, helping a collector understand how mint marks work and how production at different U.S. mint facilities can create distinct entries within the same date series. When storing this coin, avoiding harsh cleaning is extremely important. Many old copper cents have been permanently damaged by polishing, abrasive rubbing, chemical dipping, or household cleaning products. A coin may appear brighter after cleaning, but its original surface can be altered or removed, reducing its desirability to collectors. The safest approach is generally to leave a collectible coin in its original condition and store it in a suitable holder or other inert, non-damaging environment. Handling should preferably be done by the edges rather than the surfaces, because oils and moisture from fingers can affect copper over time. Long-term storage should protect the coin from excessive humidity and contaminants. A natural circulated 1956 Lincoln wheat cent can show a wide range of colors, including medium brown, dark brown, reddish brown, and occasionally remaining reddish areas. Copper reacts with the environment, so each coin develops its own appearance depending on its storage and circulation history. Small spots or changes in color do not automatically indicate a problem. The key is to determine whether the surface looks natural and whether there is evidence of corrosion or chemical treatment. Collectors often appreciate originality, especially when the coin has attractive natural toning and readable detail. The reverse inscription, EPLURIBUSUNUM, is particularly important to the design because it appears above 1 cent and below the upper curve of the coin's design elements. The wheat ears frame the central text and create balance. The wheat motif also gives the series its famous nickname. When viewed closely, the reverse can reveal differences in strike strength and circulation wear. On a well-preserved coin, the wheat details remain clearly separated and the central lettering has strong edges. On a heavily circulated piece, the stalks and grain lines may become smooth and less distinct. The 1956 date places the coin only a few years before the end of the wheat reverse series. That makes it part of a transitional period in American coin collecting history. In 1959, the reverse changed to the Lincoln Memorial design, which remained in circulation for decades. As a result, 1956 belongs to the final chapter of the original wheat cent design. Many collectors intentionally collect the last years of the wheat series because they provide an accessible way to document the closing era of one of America's most famous coin designs. For someone cataloging this exact coin, a suitable description would be United States Lincoln Wheat Cent 1956, Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, copper composition, circulated condition. The obverse features Abraham Lincoln with the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1956. The reverse features the classic wheat ears design with EPLURIBUSUNUM, United States of America, and 1 cent. This description captures the principal identifying characteristics without overstating rarity or value. Overall, the 1956 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Cent is a historic American 1 cent coin from the Philadelphia Mint and a member of the final years of the wheat cent series. Its significance comes from its connection to Abraham Lincoln, its traditional wheat ears reverse, its mid-century American history, and its place in a collection of Lincoln cents. Because the coin is circulated, its exact collector value depends on how much wear it has, whether the surfaces are original, its color, and whether it possesses any genuine variety or mint error. While a normal circulated 1956 Philadelphia cent is not generally considered a major rarity, it remains an appealing and historically meaningful coin that many collectors enjoy owning, studying, and displaying. When discussing a coin like this online or in a video, it is helpful to avoid promising a specific high value without a professional grade or verified variety attribution. Pictures can provide useful clues, but surface condition, actual measurements, weight, authenticity, and microscopic details may need closer examination for a firm identification. The strongest features to highlight are the 1956 date, the lack of a mint mark, the classic Lincoln portrait, the "In God We Trust" inscription, and the wheat ears reverse with EPLURIBUSUNUM, and 1 cent. These characteristics make the coin immediately recognizable as a 1956 Philadelphia Lincoln Wheat Cent, and place it firmly within one of America's best-known collectible coin series. The next up, top 2, the 1946 United States Lincoln Wheat Cent, is an important piece of American numismatic history and belongs to the famous Lincoln Wheat Cent series that was produced from 1909 through 1958. The coin described here is dated 1946 and has no mint mark, identifying it as a Philadelphia Mint issue. The 1946 Lincoln Wheat Cent is especially interesting because it was produced immediately after the end of World War II, placing it within a major transition period in American history. Millions of Americans were returning to civilian life, Industries were changing from wartime production to peacetime manufacturing, and the United States was entering a new era of economic and social development. At the same time, this small 1-cent coin continued circulating in everyday commerce, passing through shops, banks, homes, transportation systems, and countless hands. Although its denomination was only 1 cent, the 1946 wheat cent represents an important connection between American coinage, the life of ordinary citizens, and the historical period immediately following World War II. The obverse of the 1946 Lincoln wheat cent features the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. This design was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner and was originally introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Above Lincoln's portrait is the important inscription, "In God We Trust." To the left of Lincoln's portrait is the word "Liberty," while the date 1946 is positioned on the right side. These inscriptions are among the most recognizable elements of the Lincoln cent design. The portrait of Lincoln makes this coin historically significant because Lincoln remains one of the most important figures in United States history, particularly because of his leadership during the Civil War and his role in preserving the Union and ending slavery in the United States. Every 1946 Lincoln wheat cent, therefore, combines a historical portrait with a design that had already been familiar to Americans for nearly 4 decades. The reverse of the 1946 Lincoln wheat cent carries the classic wheat ears design that gives the series its popular nickname, the wheat penny or wheat cent. 2 wheat stalks appear on the left and right sides of the reverse, framing the central lettering. At the top is the inscription United States of America, while 1 cent is prominently displayed in the center. The Latin motto, E Pluribus Unum, appears above the denomination. The phrase E Pluribus Unum is commonly translated as out of many, one, expressing the idea of unity among the states and people of the United States. The wheat stalks are an especially memorable part of the design and immediately distinguish the Lincoln wheat cent from the later Lincoln Memorial cent and Lincoln Shield cent designs. For collectors, the wheat reverse is one of the principal reasons these older Lincoln cents remain popular decades after they stopped being produced. The absence of a mint mark on the 1946 Lincoln wheat cent is an important identifying characteristic. The United States Mint operated multiple facilities that struck Lincoln cents, and mint marks were used to identify coins produced at facilities other than Philadelphia. Philadelphia traditionally produced coins without a mint mark, so a 1946 cent that does not have a mint letter below the date is generally identified as a Philadelphia Mint issue. Denver-produced examples carry a D mint mark, while San Francisco-produced examples from this period carry an S mint mark. On the Lincoln cent, collectors normally inspect the area directly below the date to determine whether a mint mark is present. For a genuine 1946 Philadelphia Lincoln wheat cent, finding no letter in this location is normal and is not itself an error. The 1946 date is particularly meaningful because it belongs to the first full year of regular American coinage after World War II. During the war, the United States Mint had to respond to unusual material and production demands. Copper was strategically important during wartime, and the Lincoln cent underwent a famous composition change during 1943 when zinc-coated steel was temporarily used. By 1944, traditional bronze composition had returned for the Lincoln cent, and the 1946 issue continued the standard bronze composition used for regular Lincoln cents of the period. This historical connection makes a 1946 cent more than simply an old coin. It represents the return of familiar American coinage during the transition from a wartime economy to a peacetime economy. A standard 1946 Lincoln wheat cent was made primarily from copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc in its traditional bronze alloy. Because copper naturally changes appearance over time, these coins can be found in a wide range of colors. A freshly struck copper cent could have a bright reddish appearance, but years of circulation and environmental exposure can gradually produce brown or reddish-brown surfaces. Collectors commonly use terms such as red, red-brown, and brown to describe the color of copper coins, especially when discussing uncirculated examples. A circulated 1946 cent will frequently show brown coloration, although individual coins can have remaining reddish areas depending on how they were stored and handled. Natural tunning is part of the history of a copper coin and should not automatically be interpreted as damage. The condition of a 1946 no-mint mark wheat cent has a major influence on its collector appeal. A circulated coin will usually display some degree of wear on the highest points of Lincoln's portrait, including areas of the hair, cheek, jaw, and coat. The inscriptions and date can also show softening caused by circulation. On the reverse, the wheat ears are especially useful when examining wear. A heavily circulated specimen may have relatively smooth wheat stalks with many of the individual grain details worn down. A lightly circulated example can preserve much stronger definition in the wheat ears, lettering, and central design. Collectors should also look for scratches, dents, rim damage, corrosion, stains, or signs of cleaning, because these factors can influence the desirability and grade of the coin. If the coin is being examined for possible collector value, the first step should be careful identification rather than assuming that every old wheat cent is rare. The date is 1946, the denomination is 1 cent, the reverse carries the wheat ears design, and the absence of a mint mark points toward Philadelphia production. After these basic characteristics are confirmed, the surface and condition should be evaluated. A coin with heavy circulation wear is usually considerably less valuable than a sharply preserved specimen. Original surfaces are also important. A coin that has been polished or chemically cleaned may appear unusually bright. But cleaning can permanently alter the original surface and reduce collector appeal. For this reason, collectors generally prefer coins with natural, original-looking surfaces. The 1946 Lincoln wheat cent is not generally classified among the key date rarities of the wheat cent series. Some Lincoln wheat cents are famous because of very low production, unusual compositions, or exceptional varieties, while many other dates were produced in large quantities. The 1946 Philadelphia issue falls into the latter category as a regular date coin, meaning that an ordinary circulated example should not automatically be described as a rare or extremely valuable coin. Nevertheless, its historical importance and place in the wheat cent series give it lasting collector interest. People collect these coins as part of complete daytime mint mark sets, collections focused on historical American cents, or simply as examples of an earlier era of United States coinage. One reason the 1946 wheat cent remains popular is its accessibility. Collectors do not need a large budget to begin assembling a collection of Lincoln wheat cents. A person can study inexpensive circulated examples and learn how mint marks, dates, varieties, surfaces, color, and grading affect coins. The 1946 Philadelphia cent provides an excellent example for learning these basic principles because its identifying features are easy to recognize. By comparing a no-mint mark 1946 cent with nearby dates, and with D-mint and S-mint examples, collectors can learn how the same basic design was produced at different facilities and how production characteristics changed from year to year. The Lincoln wheat cent has a remarkable history that begins in 1909. Before Lincoln appeared on the cent, the United States had used the Indian head cent. The decision to place Lincoln on the 1 cent coin was historically significant because it represented the first regular United States coin to feature a real historical individual. The design was introduced to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. Over the following decades, the Lincoln cent became one of the most recognizable pieces of American currency. By 1946, The design had been circulating for more than 35 years, meaning that people who handled this coin after the war were already familiar with Lincoln's image and the wheat reverse. Victor David Brenner's Lincoln portrait became one of the most enduring designs in American coinage. Brenner's work gave the cent a strong and recognizable portrait that could be seen clearly even on a small coin. The placement of Liberty, the date, and In God We Trust provides a balanced arrangement around the portrait. The reverse uses the wheat stalks to frame the central inscriptions, creating a very different appearance from later Lincoln cent reverses. Because of this distinctive design, even someone unfamiliar with coin collecting can often identify a wheat cent immediately by looking at the two wheat stalks on the back. The phrase "In God We Trust" on the 1946 cent is another important part of its identity. This inscription has appeared on United States coinage for generations and became an important element of American currency design. Liberty is equally recognizable and reflects one of the central ideals associated with the United States. The date, 1946, gives the coin its specific historical identity and connects it directly to the post-war period. On the reverse, United States of America identifies the issuing nation, 1 cent identifies the denomination, and EPLURIBUSUNUM provides the traditional national motto. Together, these inscriptions create a compact historical message on a coin that is only a few centimeters wide. When examining a 1946 Lincoln wheat cent, the date should be carefully checked because old copper coins can sometimes have weak or worn numerals. The difference between a 1946 and another nearby date can be significant when building a complete collection, so the digits should be clearly identified. The mint mark area should then be inspected. A blank area below the date is normal for the Philadelphia issue. The reverse should be examined for the condition of the wheat ears, the central lettering, and the overall strike. Collectors may also use magnification to inspect unusual doubling, cracks, die characteristics, or other features. However, not every unusual line or apparent doubling is a valuable variety. Many features can be caused by normal circulation, contact marks, or damage occurring after the coin left the mint. Mint errors and varieties are a separate subject within Lincoln cent collecting. A genuine mint error is created during the manufacturing process and can include features such as an off-center strike, clipped planchet, broad strike, doubled striking, or other production abnormalities. A postmint scratch, gouge, bend, chemical stain, or environmental mark is not normally classified as a mint error. Because online videos and social media posts sometimes describe ordinary damage as rare errors, it is important to examine unusual coins carefully before assigning them a premium value. A professional numismatist or reputable grading service can be useful when a coin appears to possess an unusual feature that may significantly affect its value. The 1946 cent can also be interesting because of its surface color. Copper reacts naturally with oxygen and other elements over time, causing the coin's original bright appearance to change. Some coins remain relatively reddish because they were protected from environmental exposure, while others become reddish-brown or brown. Coins that have been buried or exposed to moisture may develop darker surfaces, spots, or corrosion. A natural old appearance is generally preferable to artificial polishing. Collectors examining a circulated 1946 cent should therefore focus not only on how bright it looks, but also on whether the surface appears original and undisturbed. Cleaning is one of the most common problems encountered with old copper coins. A person may polish an old wheat cent because they believe a shiny surface means greater value, but professional collectors generally consider harsh cleaning undesirable. Abrasive cleaners can create fine scratches across the surface, while chemicals can alter the natural color and texture of the copper. Once the original surface has been removed or changed significantly, it cannot simply be restored by ordinary cleaning. For this reason, A collector is usually better off preserving the coin in its current natural state, rather than attempting to make it look new. Proper storage can help protect a 1946 Lincoln wheat cent from additional deterioration. Copper coins benefit from a dry, stable environment away from excessive moisture and contaminants. A suitable inert coin holder can protect the surface while allowing the coin to be viewed from both sides. When handling a collectible coin, it is best to hold it by the edges and avoid repeatedly touching the flat surfaces. Finger oils can leave residues that may contribute to surface changes over long periods. Proper storage is particularly important for copper coins because their surfaces can react more noticeably to environmental conditions than many modern clad coins. The reverse wheat design itself is an important historical symbol. The wheat stalks have become closely associated with American prosperity and agricultural identity, and they give the series its familiar nickname. For almost 50 years, the wheat reverse appeared on Lincoln cents used by ordinary Americans. The design was eventually replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial reverse. Consequently, a 1946 wheat cent belongs to a period when the wheat design was still an everyday part of American life, rather than an old collectible design. Today, the design has become a symbol of classic American coin collecting. The 1946 issue is also a useful reminder of how coins can survive long after the circumstances that created them have disappeared. Someone who received a 1946 cent in change may have considered it nothing more than ordinary money. That same coin today can be examined as an artifact from the first post-war years. It may have traveled through stores, homes, banks, and businesses in the late 1940s and beyond. Some pieces may have remained in jars or collections, while others circulated for decades. The marks and wear visible on a circulated example can therefore be regarded as evidence of its journey through everyday commerce. For collectors who organize coins by date and mint mark, a 1946 no-mint mark cent is an important Philadelphia entry. A complete Lincoln wheat cent collection may contain examples from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco for many years. The absence of the mint mark becomes just as important as the presence of a D or S on another example. Careful identification is therefore essential. A collector should not add a 1946 coin to the wrong mint category simply because the mint mark is difficult to see. The proper location should always be checked under good lighting and magnification. The historical context of 1946 makes this cent particularly appealing for educational displays and videos. The world was emerging from the Second World War. American soldiers were returning home. Wartime factories were adjusting to peacetime production, and the United States was entering an era that would eventually bring major developments in technology, industry, transportation, and popular culture. The 1946 Lincoln wheat cent circulated during the beginning of this transformation. Its small size makes it easy to overlook, but its date connects it to an important moment in American history. The 1942 United States Lincoln wheat cent is a classic and historically important American 1-cent coin from the famous Lincoln wheat cent series, which was produced from 1909 through 1958. The coin described here is dated 1942 and has no mint mark, which identifies it as a Philadelphia Mint issue. This makes the coin a representative example of Philadelphia production during the early years of the United States' involvement in World War II. The 1942 Lincoln wheat cent circulated during one of the most significant periods in American history, when the nation was deeply involved in the war effort, and everyday life was being transformed by military mobilization, rationing, industrial production, and changing economic conditions. Although this coin had a denomination of only 1 cent, it was an everyday part of American commerce and could have passed through countless hands during a very important era. The obverse of the 1942 Lincoln wheat cent features the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln facing right. The portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner and first appeared on the United States Cent in 1909, the centennial year of Lincoln's birth. Above Lincoln's portrait is the inscription, "In God We Trust," while Liberty appears to the left of the portrait and the date, 1942, appears to the right. These elements form one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. The Lincoln portrait is especially significant because it connects the coin to one of the most influential presidents in United States history. Lincoln's leadership during the Civil War, his efforts to preserve the Union, and his role in the abolition of slavery made his image a powerful symbol for American coinage. By 1942, the Lincoln cent had already been familiar to the public for more than 3 decades. The reverse of the 1942 Lincoln wheat cent contains the classic wheat ears design. 2 wheat stalks are positioned on the left and right sides, framing the inscriptions in the center. At the top is United States of America, while the denomination 1 cent appears prominently in the middle. Above 1 cent is the Latin motto, E Pluribus Unum, commonly translated as "out of many, one." The wheat stalks are responsible for the popular names wheat penny and wheat cent that collectors commonly use today. The reverse design is one of the most important features of the entire series because it remained in use from the introduction of the Lincoln cent in 1909 until 1958. The 1942 coin therefore belongs to the mature period of the original wheat reverse, decades before it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. The lack of a mint mark on this 1942 Lincoln wheat cent is an important identifying feature. During this period, the Philadelphia Mint generally produced coins without a mint mark, while other United States mint facilities used letters to identify their production. Lincoln cents made at Denver carried a D mint mark, and cents made at San Francisco carried an S mint mark. The mint mark on Lincoln cents of this period was located below the date on the obverse. Since the coin described here has no mint mark, it is identified as a Philadelphia issue. A blank mint mark area on a normal 1942 Philadelphia Lincoln cent is expected and is not automatically an error. This is a useful detail for collectors who organize wheat cents by date and mint. The year 1942 is especially important because the United States was fully engaged in World War II. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1940 had brought the United States directly into the conflict, and by 1942 the country was rapidly expanding military production. Factories were producing aircraft, ships, tanks, weapons, ammunition, vehicles, and other wartime supplies. Civilian life was also affected by rationing and shortages of certain materials. The humble Lincoln cent was part of this changing economy. Millions of these coins moved through grocery stores, gas stations, transportation systems, banks, military communities, and businesses across the country. A surviving 1942 cent is therefore not simply a piece of old money. It is also a small physical connection to the wartime American economy. The composition of Lincoln cents during this period is also historically interesting. The traditional Lincoln wheat cent was made primarily from copper with smaller amounts of tin and zinc. Copper was strategically important during the Second World War because it was needed for ammunition, electrical equipment, communications, and other military purposes. In 1943, the United States Mint temporarily switched to zinc-coated steel planchets for the 1-cent coin in an effort to conserve copper for the war effort. The 1942 cent, however, predates that famous steel cent experiment and retains the traditional bronze composition. This makes a 1942 Lincoln wheat cent particularly interesting when studying the transition in American coinage immediately before the steel cent year. The physical appearance of a 1942 wheat cent can vary significantly depending on how it was stored and circulated. Copper naturally changes color over time. A newly struck copper cent could have a bright reddish appearance, but exposure to oxygen, moisture, handling, and other environmental factors can gradually turn the surface reddish-brown or brown. Collectors commonly describe copper coin color using terms such as red, red-brown, and brown. Because the coin you are describing is a circulated example, it may show darker natural coloration, small contact marks, and wear across the highest points of the design. Such characteristics are normal for an old circulated copper coin and do not necessarily mean that the coin has been damaged. The condition of the 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat cent is one of the most important factors when evaluating its collector appeal. Circulated coins generally show wear on the highest portions of Lincoln's portrait. Areas of the hair, cheek, jaw, and coat can become smoother as the coin is repeatedly handled. The lettering may also become slightly less sharp. On the reverse, the wheat ears provide useful evidence of wear because the individual grain details can gradually disappear with circulation. A heavily worn coin may have smooth wheat stalks, while a lightly circulated example can retain substantial detail. Collectors also look carefully at the rim, fields, lettering, and surfaces for scratches, corrosion, dents, stains, and signs of cleaning. A 1942 Philadelphia Lincoln wheat cent should not automatically be described as an extremely rare coin simply because it is old. The Lincoln wheat cent series contains many dates that were produced in large quantities, and ordinary circulated examples can still be found today. The value of a coin is determined by multiple factors, including condition, originality, color, demand, varieties, and errors. A standard circulated 1942 no-mint mark cent generally has a different market position from a rare key date or a high-grade certified example. This distinction is important because exaggerated claims about every old wheat penny being worth hundreds or thousands of dollars can be misleading. A coin can be historically interesting and collectible without being extraordinarily rare. One of the most interesting areas for collectors is the study of varieties and mint errors. A 1942 Lincoln wheat cent may sometimes display unusual characteristics that require careful examination. Collectors may look for doubled dies, die cracks, repunched features, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and other mint-produced abnormalities. However, ordinary scratches or damage that happened after the coin left the mint should not be confused with genuine errors. For example, a scratch from a tool, machine, or rough surface is generally post-mint damage. A legitimate mint error must have characteristics consistent with a manufacturing mistake occurring during the striking process. Because online images can make normal damage look unusual, authentication is recommended when a suspected error appears important. The 1942 Lincoln wheat cent is also an excellent example of the historical significance of the wheat cent design. The series began in 1909 and represented a major change in American coinage because Abraham Lincoln became the first real historical individual to appear on a regular United States coin. The choice was connected to the centennial of Lincoln's birth. The design quickly became popular and remained in circulation for nearly 50 years. During that period, the Lincoln cent witnessed enormous historical developments, including 2 world wars, the Great Depression, industrial expansion, and major changes in American society. A 1942 cent is therefore part of a coin series that spans one of the most transformative periods in American history. The obverse inscriptions have their own historical symbolism. "In God We Trust" is placed above Lincoln's portrait and is one of the best-known phrases on American money. "Liberty" appears beside the portrait and reflects a central ideal associated with the United States. The date identifies the coin's exact year of production. These 3 elements make the obverse immediately recognizable even when the coin has been heavily circulated. When examining a 1942 cent, collectors should make sure the date is clearly readable and inspect the area underneath it to confirm that no mint mark is present. The reverse also contains a concentrated collection of national symbols. United States of America, identifies the issuing nation, while 1 cent identifies the denomination. EPLURIBUSUNUM expresses the traditional idea of unity from diversity. The wheat stalks frame the design and provide the visual identity that has made the wheat cent one of the most recognizable old United States coins. On a well-preserved specimen, the wheat lines can be quite sharp. On a heavily circulated specimen, much of the fine detail may have disappeared, but the overall wheat design should remain recognizable. When evaluating a circulated 1942 wheat cent, the surfaces should be studied carefully under good lighting. Look for a natural transition of color rather than an artificially bright appearance. Examine Lincoln's portrait for wear and check the date for clarity. Inspect the rim for dents or bends and look at the reverse for the condition of the wheat ears and lettering. Any dark spots should be examined to determine whether they represent ordinary tunning or possible corrosion. A coin with original surfaces is usually more appealing to collectors than a coin that has been heavily polished or chemically treated. Cleaning is one of the biggest concerns when preserving an old copper cent. Many people believe that making an old coin shiny will improve its appearance and value, but harsh polishing can leave permanent hairlines and alter the natural surface. Chemical cleaning can also change the color of the copper and produce an unnatural appearance. Once the surface is damaged by abrasive cleaning, it cannot simply be returned to its original condition. For this reason, collectors generally recommend leaving old copper coins in their natural state unless professional conservation is specifically appropriate. A natural brown or reddish-brown 1942 cent can be much more desirable than a bright but obviously cleaned coin. Storage is another important consideration. Copper is particularly sensitive to environmental conditions, so a 1942 wheat cent should ideally be kept in a clean, dry, stable environment. A suitable coin holder made from inert materials can reduce exposure to contaminants and unnecessary handling. When touching the coin, it is better to hold it by the edge rather than placing fingers on the obverse or reverse surfaces. Finger oils and moisture can remain on the copper and contribute to unwanted changes over time. Proper storage is especially important if the coin is being kept as part of a long-term collection. The 1942 cent can also be appreciated as an educational object. It allows collectors to learn how American coin designs changed through history and how the mint used different facilities to produce circulating money. Comparing a 1942 no-mint mark cent with a 1942D or 1942S example can show how mint marks identify different production facilities. Comparing a 1942 cent with the 1943 steel cent can also demonstrate how wartime material shortages directly influenced coin design and composition. These comparisons make the wheat cent series particularly useful for teaching both numismatics and American history. For someone building a complete Lincoln wheat cent collection, the 1942 Philadelphia issue represents one of the early wartime entries. Collectors may seek examples from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco for individual years, depending on the structure of their collection. The absence of a mint mark should therefore be recorded accurately rather than treated as missing information. In a catalog, a suitable identification would be 1942 Lincoln wheat cent, Philadelphia mint, no mint mark, circulated. Additional notes can record color, surface condition, unusual characteristics, or any suspected varieties. The historical journey of an individual 1942 cent can be impossible to reconstruct, but its wear can provide clues about its life. A heavily circulated coin may have traveled through many transactions over decades, while a lightly worn example may have spent much of its life stored rather than actively circulating. Some cents were saved by children, families, or beginning collectors even when they were still worth only 1 cent. Others remained in circulation long enough to become heavily worn. The marks and tunning on an individual 1942 coin are therefore part of its physical history. Another reason the Lincoln wheat cent remains popular is its accessibility. Collectors can build sets by date and mint mark without immediately needing expensive coins. The series provides an excellent introduction to grading, varieties, mint marks, die characteristics, color, and preservation. A 1942 no-mint mark coin is particularly useful because its Philadelphia origin can be identified from the lack of a mint letter. It can serve as a starting point for learning how the U.S. Mint produced different versions of the same basic coin during the same year. The 1942 issue is also closely associated with the period just before the famous 1943 steel cent. When the mint changed the cent's composition in 1943, zinc-coated steel was used because copper was needed for the war effort. That change produced some of the most recognizable and collectible era coins in American numismatics, including rare 1943 bronze cents and 1944 steel cents. The normal 1942 bronze cent sits immediately before this fascinating chapter. While the ordinary 1942 cent should not be confused with these rare errors, the historical connection makes it an interesting coin to place within the broader story of wartime American coinage. The wheat cent design remained unchanged on the reverse for decades, providing continuity even while the country underwent enormous change. People who used a 1942 cent would have seen the same wheat design that Americans had been using since 1909. The coin's design therefore represents continuity during a period of uncertainty. In 1959, after the wheat cent series ended, the reverse was changed to the Lincoln Memorial design. Modern Lincoln cents have undergone further design and composition changes, making the original 1942 wheat cent an increasingly distinctive reminder of an earlier era. For collectors interested in the exact inscriptions on this coin, the obverse reads "In God We Trust, Liberty," and 1942, with Lincoln's portrait in the center. The reverse reads "United States of America, EPLURIBUSUNUM," and 1 cent, surrounded by the familiar wheat stalks. The spelling and arrangement of these words are important when identifying authentic examples. The coin's lack of a mint mark beneath the date indicates Philadelphia production for the standard issue. These details provide the basic foundation for an accurate catalog entry and help separate the coin from similar wheat cents from nearby years.